Good evening, everybody. This is Shrikant Chouhan, part of Equity Technical and Derivatives team and part of Equity Strategy team of Kotak Securities. Is welcoming everybody for our today's webinar, which is on most prominent tool of technical analysis, that is trend lines. Today we are going to discuss on trend lines and trend lines, how they are like friend of traders, how they are like powerful and power of trend lines. To understand, to know this, how and like how we can use this and how it will help us in terms of like trading or executing powerful trades in this market. It is very important to understand this particular concept, and today we are going to focus on this particular topic. So trend lines are traders friends, and powerful trend lines always helps traders. So very first we will go through with its definition, what is actually trend line and how actually it helps. So at the foundation of identifying trends, trend line is a tool, and trend line helps technical analysts to determine the current direction in the market and market prices, stock prices, indices. Technical analyst believes in the phrase, the trend is your friend, and identifying this trend is the first step in the process of making a good trade. A trend line is a straight line that connects two or more points and then extend into the future to act as line of support or resistance. What is important here is that trend is your friend. Friends, please keep in mind that in stock market, always we have to follow the trend. If you trade or if you take any contra bet, then that has to be backed by either reversal formation or by specific stop losses. Because most of the time, most of the time market consolidates. I mean to say, in a year's time, if we take 12 months, then out of 12 months, almost 7 to 8 months market consolidates and it enters into specific trend, and that particular time frame is of nearly 3 to 4 months. But in that 3 to 4 months, one can make very good money. Traders can make very good money based on technical breakouts, based on some flag formations, based on some patterns, based on some oscillators, because in that particular period we see trending activity in this market. And to know exactly where the market is going, where the stock is moving, it is mandatory for us to have knowledge on trend lines. So how like prices are breaking their trends, whether they are going up, whether they are going down, and it always helps traders. I'm going to say trend line always helps traders to understand that whether we are going up or going down, or we are into that particular specific consolidation mode. And if we are into trending mode, then it gives a lot of money to traders. And that is why it is very important to very first convince ourselves that trend is your friend. Yes, most of the time we see that market goes against our analysis or against our view, but that is okay, because we have to always guard our trades in this market. See, we have to see the period in which we are trading. We cannot judge ourselves on the basis of days return or days victory. We have to consider the overall or days failure. So we have to consider the period, at least 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. Then only we will come to know that whether we are on the right track or not. And the best tool is trend line. We have like discussed on number of oscillators like RSI, or even we have like considered discussed on price gap. So most of the time we have taken price as a important tool to understand that where the market is going, and this time also trend line, which is something always very closely connected to the overall formation of price. So we are going to focus on the last line, that is they show direction. I'm going to say trend lines show direction and speed of price, and also describe patterns during periods of price contraction. I'm going to say during the period of price consolidation. So today's focus will be more on, and always, like whenever like you're like drawing any trend line, see, you have to draw a number of trend line, as many as possible. You just try to draw trend line. Later on you will come to know that which trend line is really working for you, and if you practice on this you will come to know that okay, which trend line exactly you have to draw. So it's not that difficult. You have to draw a number of trend lines. Yes, always it is mandatory to connect those points, after which either price has made a new high or new low. So if you try to focus on those 2 points, you will get very strong trend line. And I have like number of examples. I have like today means take a number of examples for you to discuss on those charts and to show you that how like I am plotting trend lines and how it is like useful for me and for you also. So our focus should be on direction. That means either whether the price is going up or going down. The other one is speed, that is degree, whether the trend line is in that 45 degree or let's say on 35 30 degree, 25 degree, or 70 80 degree kind of mark. So where exactly the trend line, how like trend line is moving upward. So whether it is, if it is in that 45 degree, then it gives more reliable confirmations. If it is very steep, I'm to say if it is in the range of 80 to 70 degree, then we consider that trend is very strong and it's a temporary correction, and after that correction again the price can go up. That's the view. And if it is very slanting, I mean to say if it is very slanting towards the bottom, then we can consider it as a that it is going to give more weightage on the other side. I'm to say if it breaks on the downside, then the fall will be much stronger than expectations. And the last one is patterns. So it also, like with the help of trend lines, we comes to know that whether the stock is or that particular instrument is forming any triangle, rectangle, or flag. So bar charts or candlestick formations are more preferable to draw trend lines, because nowadays fluctuation volatility is increasing day by day, and that is why bar charts or price charts, I'm to say candlestick pattern charts, are very uh, crucial to, or one can use to draw trend lines. Only on the basis of line charts we will not get true picture that whether the price has really broken this particular channel or trend line or not. One more thing that I just want to add over here is that breach of trend line. So like most of the time people ask me that whether like we have to consider breach of trend line on intraday basis or not. Then the answer is yes. If any index or any instrument is cutting trend line during the day, I'm going to say on intraday basis, then we have to consider it as breach of trend line. And in that case we will have to like exit out of that particular trade. And towards the end, if we see that again the price is closing above that trend line, then again we have to re-enter into that trade. We don't have any choice, because in the past I have seen that whenever price breaks trend line on the downside, especially on the downside, it falls vertically, and that time it becomes very difficult. So you cannot wait till the closing of that particular instrument. So it is better always to consider breach even if there is on intraday basis. So what is important, one more concept of this trend line is that we have to follow bigger time frame. So if you are like following bigger time frame like weekly or daily charts, then based on that particular trend line supports and resistance, we can draw our strategy. For example, if there is a support of weekly trend line, and on daily basis if stock is falling, then based on weekly that particular support of trend line, we can initiate some long positions close to support areas as per weekly charts. So we have to give more weightage to the bigger time frame, and based on that we can draw strategy on lower time frame. So for weekly charts, we have to consider for drawing strategy on daily basis, we have to consider weekly charts, and for drawing strategy on intraday basis, we have to consider daily charts. 60-minute charts, we have to consider daily charts. For 15-minute charts, we have to consider 60-minute charts. That's the overall logic that we follow. Um, so the first example is of Escorts and a direction on which we are going to discuss. See here very clearly, it's a weekly chart of Escort, and one can clearly see that the stock has shown spectacular run up from almost 250 to 1000 without breaching rising trend line. We can even call it as a demand line. So it's a completely buying strain that stock is displaying, and with the help of this particular trend line, we can design our strategy on daily basis to enter in panic situations. So because it's a weekly a particular pattern, you can see that on daily basis price must have broken its important support areas, but again it closed back. So on Friday, if the price is again regaining above this particular trend line, then we have to consider this as a buying opportunity for long traders. And on the dismissal of trend line, we can see that after like breaching this trend line, price has again retraced back to pull that particular trend line and reverse back later on. So see the way price behaves after breaking any specific trend line, especially when there are very lesser flows in the market. Trend lines works like anything. I'm to say trend lines helps a lot to traders whenever there is a very lesser flows in the market. One more example is there for direction, and in that we have considered the example of Tata Steel. Here also you can see that the stock was around 300. From there all the way it went to 740, 750 levels. Uh, Around 400 levels, when the price was reversing from important support area or trend line, we can see that after like hitting this particular 400 mark, it has changed the overall track and started moving upward sharply. So here you can see that the first trend line, which is starting from 300, that was uh, we can say that it was 45-degree sort of trend line, and after like hitting 400, when the price reversed back sharply, after that if you see this, then this particular rising trend line is suggesting us that it is somewhere close to 70 to 65 kind of degree trend line, uh, where like we see that the price goes up sharply, it breaks a trend line, but again it recovers back, and most of the time stock or index makes new high. So if trend line is going up and if it is steep trend line, then stock takes time to fall. But if it is a 45-degree kind of trend line, then it gives proper signal that stock is exiting out of its bullish or bearish setup. And here you can see that after breaking important support area at 580, 590, Tata Steel has reversed its trend. Later on we saw some pullback, but eventually the stock is quoting at its lowest of the current uh, uh, fall. So close to 475, 476 levels the stock is, and the breakdown was somewhere around 620, 590 levels. So more steeper the trend line, stock takes time to fall. That's the overall logic. Speed, again here we are going to focus on speed. I mean to say whether it is 45-degree, 80-degree, 90-degree, and here also you can see that Larsen has broken recently important support area at 1430 based on trend line. After breaking that, we saw the levels of 1300 without any meaningful pullback. So there is one more example of Pharma index, and Here we have considered pharma index is mainly because we can even use this on major indices like Bank Nifty, CNXIT, Nifty, Bank Nifty. So here you can see that very clearly. After crossing this trend line of 45 degree, we saw very sharp run up towards 11,000 on pharma index. Later on, we saw some correction, but it was just a pullback to the trend line. Now again, pharma index is reversing back. So one thing is very clear that I think pharma index has formed either double bottom or it has retraced to its falling trend line, which is extremely positive for the sector. And if we see furthermore, if we get furthermore confirmation on monthly basis, I mean to say, if on the closing of this month, if we see a pharma index is closing above the mark of 9,300, which was highest of the previous month, then we can expect very strong upward trend in the market. That's the view. Tata Motors, here also the stock is arresting at that particular trend line. It is not like able to cross this trend line. So unless and until the stock is not crossing this trend line at 200, somewhere close to 200 levels, the stock is going to remain under pressure. That's the view. Patterns. See, pattern means I'm going to say here flag formation, triangle, ascending triangle, pennants. So we can draw this pattern based on trend lines with the help of trend lines. First example that we have taken is of Reliance Industries, and here in the month of November, December 2017, we can see that the stock has formed some triangle formation, and after like forming this triangle formation, on the dismissal of it, we have seen a very strong breakout towards 640 650 area, and later on it uh, uh, tested the levels of 800, and currently the stock is trading at 1120 1130. So it was like classic trend line breakout after consolidation of almost 7 to 8 years of time. Falling wedge pattern, again it's a pattern, and falling wedge is a bullish consolidation formation that we consider. In the past, when Hindalco was trading at 70-65 levels, that time the stock has formed falling wedge pattern, and it has broken this level. After broken trend line of 45 degree, we saw a very strong upsurge in the stock, and today the stock is quoting at somewhere around 220 230. Ascending triangle of Reliance Industries. Here also, it's very clear that we draw horizontal trend line on the price pattern based on its connecting points, and on the bottom you can see that from 350 to almost 460, the trend line was just moving upward, but later on it has formed ascending triangle, and on the dismissal of that particular trend line and resistance level based on horizontal trend line, we saw sharp breakout in this particular stock, and later on the stock moved to 1300 levels. In today's date also, on monthly basis, the stock is following to its rising trend line, which is in green, we can see. And in this month also, the stock was below this level, below this particular trend line, but again it is recovering back, and it is trying to close above this trend line. In case if we see the stock is closing below this trend line, then we can expect short-term weakness or short-term to medium-term weakness in the stock. Flag and pennant formation, it's very visible. In the previous session of price gaps, we considered this example that after like leaving gap on daily and weekly basis, uh, stock takes time. Sometimes they go into flag formations or continuation formations, and for that particular consolidation formation, in which formation the stock is, to identify that we can draw trend line. So trend line gives understanding that whether we are into continuation formation or not, whether we are entering into long term breakout or not. So it's a found, and that is why we are using the word of it's a foundation to identify trends. And here we can see that after crossing this strong formation of flag formation, from 460 it went to 620 630 levels in just a few days of time. State Bank of India, which is into rectangle consolidation formation, currently since last almost uh, uh, 3 to 4 months, the stock is forming triangle formation. But in the past, if we consider from 2011, then the stock is forming rectangle formation, and it is like still within that particular range. So on the dismissal of this particular range, we can expect a very strong breakout for the stock and sharp activity. So broadly, we are bullish on State Bank, and currently the stock is in triangle formation. In case if we get the stock again around 280, 285 area, it will be an opportunity for medium to long term investors to take even positional trades. Eventually, we are expecting stock to breach upward level and to move towards 350 or 400 kind of levels. Uh, it's a flag formation for LNT, and recently on weekly basis, monthly basis, the stock is following to this particular formation, so which is positive. Currently the stock has retraced to its falling trend line, uh, above which the stock has given breakout signal. So it's a retrace, it's a pullback to the trend line, and if it is reversing back, if Larsen able to close into positive territory on weekly basis or on monthly basis, then we can consider it as a valid formation, and we can expect further more upside in the stock. Bank Nifty, classic ascending triangle at the bottom. On the breach of this particular horizontal trend line, we saw good amount of price breakout and price appreciation. Later on, we saw some pullback, but that pullback got arrested at horizontal support area. Later on, again, we saw a sharp uptick. Currently, the stock is following some rising flag formation, which is again positive for it. It shows that buyers are there, inflows are very less as compared to other market, and that is why it is forming some rising flag formation. So again, it's a classic formation based on trend line we can identify, and which is going to give a major signal in the near term for Bank Nifty. Finally, it's a formation of Nifty, and based on like number of trend lines. See, I have drawn several trend lines on this particular chart. The stock has Nifty has formed diamond formation, which is again consolidation formation for Nifty. Here it is suggesting us that it is going to continue. I mean to say it is going to continue on the upward side because it has broken on the upward side. Again, in the last leg of this formation, we can clearly see that Nifty has formed triangle formation, and yesterday it closed above the mark of 10,870, which is positive for it. Today also the lowest of the day was around 10,870, which we can consider as a pullback or retracement to the yesterday's breakout. So we are expecting furthermore upside in the market based on this formation. In the crisis time also, Nifty has managed to regain these trend lines, and it closed above these trend lines. Like some 3 days back when the market was down, it was around 10,690, but it closed at 10,730, 735, and because of which again Nifty has managed to close above the trend line, and eventually we saw strong uptick in the market. So it was like uh, all on the trend line. Now we are going to focus on few important data points for Nifty, which we always discuss whenever like we talk on market. Uh, Currently the market is at 10,900. It was between 10,500, 10,900 for at least 3 to 4 weeks, but again market has managed to close at 10,900, which is positive for long traders and for the overall health of the market. VIX, which is very important tool that we always consider, is at 16.20, which is again indicating us that it is at neutral level. PCR is around 1.20, 1.30, which shows that we are little on the overbought side, yet or otherwise on the over retracement side, but it is not at all like completely overbought or oversold. So again here the picture is of neutral. Daily RSI is also around 55. So again it is showing us that there is hardly any activity, and in fact since last like 3 weeks the market is in the same range, and it is trying to close somewhere around 10,900 or 10,850 most of the time. Uh, Currency is around 71.05, which was around 69.50 in the middle of this previous month. It recovered back sharply, and it is currently quoting at 71.05. Our overall medium term target on currency is around 72.5. So we are expecting 72.50 to achieve in next few weeks or few months. So gradual depreciation is not ruled out, and which is actually healthy for the market. Crude, which was around $50, now it's trading around 60, 61. We witnessed a substantial fall in crude prices, but again there is a recovery, and it is good for metal prices to hold at current levels. It is mandatory, and it's a requirement that crude should quote somewhere around 60, 65 levels to hold the entire equity sentiment for world markets. Uh, Till crude is below 70, uh, we feel that it is going to give positive impacts or positive supportive patterns to equity markets, to Indian equity markets. World markets are down or mixed, so again there is also, the picture is not clear, but we saw a good amount of sell off in the previous month, in the previous week, for all world markets, and now they are recovering back, they are also bouncing back. So broadly the picture is completely neutral, and that is why the market is forming triangle formation. We are expecting market to move towards 11,000 or 11,200 based on option data, based on chartical formation. That's the overall view on Nifty. So it's a pattern of Nifty, and one can clearly see that it is like in this particular range since last almost 6-7 weeks. So that's all from my side on trend lines, how to use trend lines, how to plot trend lines. Uh, See, like we have to focus on uh, price, which is very, very important. That if there is like any news flow in the market, then you have to first give weightage to the price, where the price is, where the bigger time frame is. Later on you can consider about the implication or outcome of the news flow, that whether the price is closing above or below the trend line. If the price is closing below the trend line, and if the outcome is negative, then we can consider that price or that particular stock or index is going to fall further. If the price is closing above the trend line, even if news flow is not positive, then we can say that it's that stock or index has already discounted this particular news flow. That's the overall logic that we follow. So we give more weightage to the price as compared to news, because most of the time we see that news follows to the price. So technical analysis is very, very important as when to buy. That we have to consider, we have to keep in mind. So uh, now, we will start answering to queries, and again, uh, I would appreciate if you focus more on FNO stocks, and if you ask queries regarding to FNO segment. It's a disclaimer. So yeah, there are a number of questions in the queue, and quickly I will go through with the very first question, which Mr. Shambhunath Pakra has asked, that uh, details on investment in regarding Nifty futures and options, please. How does one draw trend line? Trend lines, Fibonacci combinations work better. Where do you think? Okay, so I have already discussed on what is our outlook on Nifty and all. But see, for Nifty futures and options, see, we are going to focus today on, and today's our topic is on trend lines. So we are going to focus and going to speak more and more on trend lines. For future options also, we are going to conduct one session in the near term. So on that we will certainly speak. But yes, nowadays options are doing really. I'm just say options are giving very good money to traders. So we have to focus on options, especially for Nifty trades. If you can initiate positions or trades in option segment, you can make very good money on options. There is a risk is also very less, protected. I'm just a downside is very much protected whenever like you take any positional trade in this market. So it is working very well if you follow specific tools for taking any trade on F&O segment. Uh, Yeah, so there is one more question from Santosh, and he's asking about outlook on CIPLA as well as outlook on LIC housing. See, for CIPLA, our view is that the stock is underperforming to the broader market as well as to the overall basket of pharma sector. So we are of the view that it is better to focus on those companies, those stocks which are frontline stocks from that particular space, like Sun Pharma, Lupin Laboratories, Dr. Reddy, or Aurobindo Pharma, which is very high beta stock. And I generally prefer to trade in stocks like Aurobindo Pharma or Cadila or Torrent Pharma, which are like high beta companies, and where we get specific trades based on trend lines, based on oscillators, based on Fibonacci ratios. But for CIPLA, our view is that it is better to say like quit any long position if there are any, and you can switch into Aurobindo Pharma or even Sun Pharma with a trading view or with a investment view. For Eicher Motor, view is that it is completely into a bear's grip. It is not at all like recovering from lows, but the most surprising part is that between 20,500, 20,800, stock has witnessed huge amount of volume. And if you go through with its volume bar, then good amount of volume activity we saw. And after hitting the levels of 20,000, stock again recovered back sharply. So currently the stock is around 20,700, 20,750 levels. We are expecting dead cat bounce because some few weeks back, the stock was around 25, 27,000 levels. From there, all the way we saw vertical fall. So naturally, we can see some dead cat bounce in the stock. 21,250 is the next level to watch out for. There we can look for reducing some long position, or if there are like any weak positions, then one must look for exiting out of this particular stock. One can focus more on stocks like Escorts or Maruti to trade for. There we can get some specific trades. Um, for ICICI Bank, again the view is bullish because stock is holding well above the mark of 350, 355, which was its earlier all-time highest level. So which is positive for it because markets are still comfortably below the mark of all-time highest level. So here it clearly shows that the stock is outperforming in terms of its price retracement, in terms of its price expansion. We like Axis, we like ICICI Bank, we also like State Bank, and we are seeing good amount of buying attraction and specific interest in all these three stocks. We also like PSU banks, which are reversing from their important support areas. Few days back, they were like trading at their important resistance areas, but in last 3-4 days, we saw good amount of price correction in the stock, and now again stocks are moving upward. Bank of India, technically we like the stock. It is forming some bullish divergence formation on weekly basis, and currently the stock is around 105, 106 levels. So if we have to focus on any three stocks from PSU basket, then we are focusing on State Bank, Canara Bank, and Bank of India to trade for. ICICI Bank, Axis Bank looks really good to trade for. For NBCC and Ashok Leyland, again the view is that Ashok Leyland currently at 9,500 levels, and in the past, if you go through with its past history, then whenever stock falls to 90, 95 levels, uh, it stabilizes and again it starts consolidating and recovers back. That's the overall formation that we see whenever stock falls to the levels of 100 for Ashok Leyland. This time also we are expecting a similar sort of formation because already the stock has discounted number of news flow, bad news flow for the company, and it is struggling at 90-95 levels. After like consolidating bit, we are expecting again rebound in the stock, but we are specifically bullish on NBCC because based on technicals, stock has formed reversal formation on weekly monthly basis. It was into steep sell-off mode, but currently the stock is diverging positively, and I am of the view that the stock is very close to its falling trend line. So on the dismissal of that trend line, we can expect sharp breakout. For Dr. Reddy, last time also we discussed that Dr. Reddy is in a very broader range of 2550 and 2650. It is not going anywhere. It is in the same range. So if we are like range trader, then it's a best company to trade for. It is not falling below 2550, so somewhere close to 2550 one can initiate long positions. On the high side, close to 2650, 2660, go short with a final stop loss at 2690 or 2700. For Hindustan Liver, our view is that uh, the stock has again outperformed to the broader market. The stock has made a new high when it was again recovering back from the lows of 1550, 1600 levels. Currently, the stock is in a very narrow range of 1750 on the downside, 1800 on the high side. We are expecting 1750 going to act as a very good support for it. Until the stock is above 1750, we can again expect 1830, 1850 on the high side. So one can maintain stop loss at 1750 for all long positions. How to measure degree? See, we have to just like visually understand, or we have to take a view based on its visual formation. uh, if you can uh, draw trend line, and if you can drag the chart to the zero level of particular chart formation, then we will come to know that whether the stock is forming that particular trend line is of 45 degree or not. And if it is of that particular degree, then we can like take view accordingly. So Mr. Rajesh is asking for Reliance, and for Reliance, again the view is uh, bullish because the stock is holding well above the mark of 1080, 1060. Uh, in fact, the stock has formed interesting formation after like forming the highest high of 1350, 1360. The stock has uh, corrected to its important support area of 1060, 1080, and after consolidating for almost uh, 5 to 6 weeks, now the stock has again broken or absorbed selling pressure of the falling trend line, so which is positive for it. And based on this particular trend line breakout, we can expect a stock to move towards 1160, 1180. Tomorrow the company is going to announce its number, so we may see some sideways activity, but broadly we are of the view that the way the stock has broken its trend line today, also there was gap up opening and the stock has managed to close above the gap up opening level. So it clearly shows that there is specific amount of interest, buying interest in the stock, that will take the stock towards 1180, 1190. We can maintain stop loss at 1110 levels for any long positions. See, to for Bank Nifty again, formation is, see, in this particular expiry, the Bank Nifty is in a very narrow range. In the previous week, the Bank Nifty was in the range of almost 1,000 points. I'm going to say in the previous week, Bank Nifty has gained almost 1,000 points. So because of that, in this particular week, the Bank Nifty is consolidating and it is in a very narrow range. We are expecting Bank Nifty to remain in a range of 27,400 on the downside, 27,750, 740 on the higher side. Tomorrow, in case if we see any higher opening, then we are expecting Bank Nifty to close somewhere around 27,750 or 740 area. That's the overall view on Bank Nifty for this expiry, and tomorrow uh, we are going to see expiry of the current week for Bank Nifty. For Jyoti Laboratories, we cannot we can't comment on this because we are focusing more on FNO related, future and options related stocks. For Tata Steel, yes, someone has asked about Tata Steel. Um See, for Tata Steel, see it is very clear on the on weekly and monthly charts that the stock has retraced 50% of its entire up move. Currently, the stock is around 470, 475, and whenever stock falls to 50% of its entire rally, we see some consolidation, and later on we see some breakout in the stock. So today, uh, also when the stock was under pressure, the stock was holding well above the mark of 470. We may see some decline because overall world markets are not doing well. Trade war is the main concern which is affecting all these metal companies. So we may see some maybe sideways activity or some down tick in the stock. But broadly, we are of the view that the stock is going to manage the level of 470 for next couple of weeks. And if there is any reversal formation on weekly or monthly basis, then we can consider it as a reversal and bullish reversal formation, as well as buying entry point for long trades. So 470 is the area on which we have to focus, and we have to see that how stock performs here. If there is any medium to long term view, then our view is to look for adding long position if there is any reversal formation. So we are specifically bullish on Tata Steel at current levels. For Havells, see, the stock is going up gradually. It is consolidating. It is not crossing any major trend. I mean to say, even after crossing trend line, it is reversing back. So it clearly shows that the stock is waiting for the result. After this result, only the stock will enter into some specific trending activity. We are of the view that till the stock is below 745, 750 level, it is going to remain in a range of 750 and 660 on the downside. On the dismissal of 750, we can expect fresh rally in the stock. So we are of the view that above 750, the stock may even go up to 850 or 900 levels. But till the stock is within this particular range, we should look for taking range trade in this stock. For PC jewelers, trend lines don't exhibit pattern. Yes. See, whenever the stock is, it's a good question, in fact, because whenever there is any news flow, or if the stock is under any specific event, then you cannot rely on that particular trend line, because that particular event or outcome is very, very important for that particular stock or for the trend of that stock. So it is always better to avoid taking view based on technicals or based on any other method if the stock is under strong news flow, like Yes Bank or uh, DHFL, PC Jewelers, or Vakrangi Software. These are the companies where you cannot use these methods to take any specific trade. For Vedanta, see, it is very difficult to say that at what level Vedanta will close in the month of January. But by and large, if you go through with its pattern on weekly and monthly basis, then Vedanta is forming some positive divergence formation, which is positive for the stock. It shows that the stock is falling, but on closing basis, the stock is managing to close higher, even if it is like in that particular falling trade. So since last few weeks, the stock is around this 190, 185, 195 levels, but it is trying and managing to close higher somewhere around 198 or 200. It has given some reversal formation. So with the help of this particular formation, we can expect activity in the near future. So we are bullish on stock with the final stop loss below 185 for any positional trade. One more query regarding how these IT stocks are going to do in the near future. For IT stocks, our view is that they have shown their uh, uh, maximum trending activity in last few weeks or few months. We are of the view that they are going to consolidate for next few weeks more. Infosys, which is trading around 735, 740, is heading for the levels of 750, 760, where it has strong resistance of retracement ratios. So 760 is the area where we are expecting stock to come under some liquidation pressure. But at the same time, if there is any decline because of any reason, then certainly we should look for adding this stock to our positional portfolio. Somewhere close to 710 or 700 stock looks Infosys looks really good to buy and to hold. But for TCS, the stock is completely uh, into consolidation mode, and that particular consolidation is also at the bottom of the current fall, so it is negative for the stock. We are of the view that 1930 is going to act as a strong barrier for the stock. On the downside, 1830 is the area of support. Until the stock is above this 1830 area, we can expect range bound activity. But for HCL Tech, for Tech Mahindra, and for other IT companies, it is better to stay away. For Wipro, we are of the view that on quarterly and monthly basis, the stock is forming some bullish breakout formation. uh, Already the stock has announced buyback as well as bonus. So if and how they like give this bonus and buyback, based on that the future of the stock will depend. But technically we are of the view that something is happening in this stock, and if we take the view of next at least 3 to 6 months, then the stock should deliver positive returns to traders as well as to investors. That's the view based on chart of Wipro. And for capital goods and infra, someone is asking about Siemens, Cummins. There we have a bullish view because the overall sector is doing really well. They are into uptrend, and uh, the overall formation is suggesting us that Siemens is heading for the levels of 1130, 1150 in the near term. Any decline from current levels close to 1020 or 1030 will be an opportunity for traders, short-term traders as well as positional traders, to initiate long positions. Uh, Larson and Cummins, they are also showing some strength. Larson currently at very attractive levels of 1330, 1340, and from here again we are expecting some rebound. But we are expecting stock to remain in a range of 1440, 1450, and on the downside 1300, 1330 is the area of support. For Cummins, 830, 820 is the area of support. In case if we see a decline towards those levels, then certainly it's an opportunity for positional traders to initiate long position with a target of minimum 885, 90, 900 on the high side. The last question on which we are going to discuss today um, is, there are like number of questions, but I have to select the specific one. And yeah, there are like people who are like asking about Jindal Steel and Power as well as JSW Steel. So friends, both these stocks are under severe selling pressure. They are finding a lot of difficulties to recover back from their lows. In fact, they are still far away from their important support areas. So my view is that it is better to avoid these two stocks because they have already fallen heavily from their heights. They are not rebounding from their lows. They are not forming any specific formation based on weekly formation or based on daily formation. So it is better to stay away from Jindal Steel and Power as well as JSW Steel. Certainly, we can focus more and more on Tata Steel and Vedanta to trade for from the metal space. So that's all from my side uh, for this today's webinar. Thank you very much for keeping patience and listening to us. Uh, Keep like sending your queries as well as keep logging to our webinars. Next time also we are going to uh, introduce one more interesting topic based on technicals, which will certainly help all of you. And please keep in mind to work on these data points which we consider, which we always talk in our webinar. So these data points always help us to understand that where the markets are going. Thank you, and have a lovely day.